So, here I am, on the morning of my 50th birthday, feeling somewhat worse for wear, as I'd actually had my party the night before, in this beautiful old place called Wilton's, a music hall in the East End, one of the very last of them palaces of working-class entertainment. And what a night! All my friends and foes gathered together in this beautiful, evocative old room. People come from all over the world to join me in this auspicious occasion. And it was beautiful, just looking round the room. Even my cheapest friends had dressed the part. It was a room full of Victorian dandies, all top hats and mutton chops, girls of every shape and size bursting out of bodices, left, right, and indeed centre. And you don't get many of them to the pound misses. The crazed, the lunatics, the thieving toe rags had all turned up. And even people who aren't in my band. Thank you, Dino. It was fucking brilliant. My lovely wife, Anne, much to my surprise, had organised a whole music hall show. There were sand dancers dressed as Egyptians dancing in a hieroglyphic fashion. A burlesque singer dressed, albeit briefly, as Vera Lynn. And a pearly king making a ladder out of a rolled up newspaper whilst singing If It Wasn't for the Houses in Between. My two lovely daughters, Scarlett and Viva, came on stage in giant nylon beehives, singing, Sisters, sisters, never were there such devoted sisters are. When all of a sudden, an enormous birthday cake is wheeled into the middle of the stage. It's fucking huge. And bang, out of it leaps this gorgeous woman as a finale to the show. And I think, phew. No, I do. I think, phew. I'm taking her home tonight. It was my 50th birthday. It was my wife. So, there I am, as I say, on the morning of my actual 50th birthday. Amongst the bubbles and ducks, mulling it all over, extremely hungover, but deeply content. When bang, I hear a terrible crash, and I turn around to see my favourite cat, Mamba, lying motionless on the bathroom floor, surrounded by shards of glass. What the fuck's happened here? Has he been fired through the window? He looks sort of perfect. There's no blood coming out, but I just sort of know he's dead. Hang on, the glass shelf above the sink's gone. Maybe he jumped on it and it broke. But cats can't die of a fall of 4 feet. Cats got 9 lives. Cats can fall from 8-story buildings. I've seen it on YouTubes. But there he is, motionless. My Mamba dead on my 50th birthday. The cat that caught 6 mice in one day. The cat that saw off that horrible fucking cat from next door that used to come in our house and spray on my shoes. The cat that used to climb up the ivy at the front of our house and knock on our bedroom window when he wanted to come in. I climb out of the bath, dripping. I feel his neck. I feel his chest. He's definitely getting colder. God! How could you have done this to me? And on my birthday. Now, I'm not going to go on and on about pets. It's a bit like people going on about their babies, isn't it? But I did love that cat. The following morning, I break the terrible news. There's wailing and gnashing of teeth, and we follow the usual procedure of trying to find poor Mamba a vacant plot in the pet cemetery that is our back garden. Even get my daughter's boyfriend round for a bit of moral support. And to help with the digging. He was a big cat. Well, after Mamba's funeral and a short wake in our local pub, I'm off to see my mum. I didn't get much of a chance to talk to her at the party, so I jump in the back of a black cab. Taxi! Right, mate. Great Street, please. After a a couple of minutes, the driver turns to me and says,
"You all right, Suggsy, mate? You look a bit glum."
I explained. It's my 50th birthday. I've never really thought about it before, but 50. Half a century of my life gone.
I wouldn't worry about that, son. I mean, look at me, I'm 52.
Yeah, right, well, what's tipped me over the edge, and it might sound a bit stupid, but my cat died this morning. There was an awkward pause. The cab slowed and pulled into the curb, and I heard what distinctly sounded like sobbing, crackling through the intercom.
Here, Suggsy. I know exactly what you mean, mate. My cat Bubbles died last week.
He tells me how his Bubbles got run over in the street.
And I had to bring it in the house in a black bin bag. And everyone outside in the streets asking me, what's in the bin bag?
And telling me this sets him off again.
My next door neighbour, he's a vet.
And the vet says to him, "Are you sure it was dead?"
And I says, "Well, I think so. I've buried it now."
And the vet says, "Well, if you've buried it, even if it wasn't dead, it fucking is now." The cab pulls up outside my mum's flat in Soho and I knock on the door. Now, my mum, how to put it? Let's just say she's quite a character. There was very rarely a dull moment when she brought me up as a kid. And my dad, I never knew my dad. He left when I was about 3. At least that's what Mum's told me. I go in. There she is, in a beige electric reclining armchair, smoking a fag, watching Countdown. We get chatting about what a great party it was. And I tell her how my poor Mamba killed himself this morning and how upset it's made me. She understands she's got cats herself. There's a lull in the conversation, and I hear myself saying, "Mum, what did happen to Dad? What do you want to know?" Like anything? She looks up. He was jazz mad. I met him in a coffee bar round the corner. What? In Soho? And she starts to tell me stuff she's never told me before. I was working in Manchester for a gangster called Bill Man Mountain Benny, singing in one of his clubs. I had a good voice. I had a great voice. I won Jazz Newcomer in Melody Maker. I was 18. 18. He used to slobber all over the other girls, but I stood up for myself. And she laughs. They found Bill naked, face down on the dance floor of one of his clubs, dead. He'd had an heart attack. There was 10 minutes of horrible screaming before they discovered the poor girl trapped beneath him. They had to get a winch to lift him off. I ended up singing at the Blue Angel in Liverpool. It was where the Beatles and Cilla Black used to go after their sessions at the Cavern. The carpet there was so sticky, the house band stayed for 30 years. I was singing in there one night, she said, when this nice fella starts chatting to me. Says I'm too good for Liverpool. Said I should try my luck in the bright lights of London. Well, you should have seen his face when I turned up outside his place in Soho. And what? That was me dad. No. That's when I got a job at the Colony Club. Oh, Jesus, I remember the Colony. What a place. I was probably only knee-high to a bar stool when I first went in there. Mum singing with the house pianist in the emerald green bar. My head just below the thick fug of tobacco smoke that hung permanently across the bar as I made my way past a row of fishnet-clad knees, and that was just the fellas. Every now and then, a giant hand would reach down for that tobacco cloud and ruffle my hair, or even better, proffer a 2-bob coin. I couldn't really see or hear what was going on at adult level, which is probably all for the best. As you have to remember, in the 1960s, drinking hours were highly restricted and gambling and homosexuality were illegal. So-called members' clubs were springing up all over Soho. But the Colony was king. It was a magnet for all sorts of social misfits. Jazz musicians, painters, poets, writers, strippers, prostitutes, gangsters, coppers, toffs. Plain old drunks.
Dimitri! I love you.
And transvestites. I met her in a club down in Old Soho, where you drink champagne. It tastes just like cherry cola. C-O-L-A cola. She walked up to me and she asked me to dance. I asked her name and in a dark brown voice she said, Lola. Hello, Lola. La 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 Lola. Well, we drank champagne, we danced all night under electric candlelight. She picked me up and sat me on her knee and said, little boy, won't you come home with me? Well, I'm not the world's most physical guy, but when she squeezed me tight, she nearly broke my spine. Oh, my Lola. Hello, Lola. La 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 Lola. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Ray Davis got the whole thing pretty spot on there. But amongst the gambling, prostitution, alcoholism, and transvesticism, there was, in fact, a dark side to Soho. Yes. Some afternoons, my mum would pack me off to the pictures. And armed with my 2-bob, I'd head for the cartoon cinema in Piccadilly Circus. I was probably only about 6 or 7 at the time. I remember I stopped in the public toilets on the way there, and the white-tiled walls were sprayed with what looked like black ink. It was only much later I would discover, in fact, it was dried blood, squirted from the syringes of junkies, trying not to put air bubbles in their veins. And on the way back from the pictures, I remember passing this long queue of skinny-looking hippies outside a chemist's in Shaftesbury Avenue. It was John Bell and Croydon, which was involved in a risky experiment of giving out free heroin to registered addicts, one of whom, it would turn out, was my dad. So, Mum, you knew Dad was a heroin addict? No. Not until after we were married. I came home from work one afternoon and I found him with a needle hanging out of his hand. I took it out, I broke it, I emptied his stuff down the sink. They ended up putting him in Tooting-Bec Asylum. He tried to inject himself with paraffin. Mum, what? Look, I just fell in love with him. He was a nice man. He was the nicest man I ever met. He was a beautiful person. He was just like you. And I left my mum's flat stunned at the news. Not the heroin. My dad was a nice man. What? Mum never really talked about him as a real person before. I just had him down as some wayward old bastard who'd abandoned us. What a birthday. First a cat and now this. My dad was a nice man. I headed in the nearest pub. I'd barely ordered a pint. When I felt a presence. And there in the doorway of the pub was a big gang of greasy leather-clad rockers coming towards me. And I thought, hang on, I've been in this pub before, yeah. It was 30-odd years ago, and nothing's changed. The carpet, the wallpaper, the curtains. Dino playing a barman badly. Yes. 30 years ago. It was a summer's afternoon, and I was wearing this beautiful aquamarine tonic suit. It had cost me £8, nearly a whole week's wages, and I hadn't half earned that money. I was working in a butcher's at the time in Chapel Street Market, and I was new, and I got all the really shit jobs, like scraping the fat out of the metal trays in the backyard with cold water. And it was cold. really fucking cold. Everything about butchery is cold. You could chop off one of your fingers, wrap it in a packet of sausages and not notice till you got home. And fat is impervious to cold water. That's why ducks wear it. But I needn't have worried. My hard efforts were soon rewarded with promotion. Yes, my new job basically involved taking all the bits of a pig that have hair on them. The ears, the snout, the bollocks and the bumhole. And carefully putting them through the hand-driven mincer to create this newfangled delicacy from America they were calling the hamburger. Oh, yes, please. Can I have the one with all the hair sticking out of it? But on Saturday afternoons, I used to get to take the old butcher's bike with a basket on the front and do the deliveries. I shall never forget cycling up the hill to St Mary's Convent to deliver my meat to the nuns. What? I did. Every now and then I might have to poke a sausage through the nun's hatch. So there I am, and I'm staring in the window of Alfred Kemp's second-hand clothes shop in Camden Town at the Aquamarine tonic suit, and it's sparkling like a glass of champagne. I go in, I try it on, and it fits like a glove. £8 later, and I'm bowling down Tottenham Court Road like Jack the fucking Peanut. Suit shimmering in the late afternoon sun. Have a look at that. It's 1977, and the charts seem to be full of a lot of old farts in capes playing 15-minute long solos. I'm 16 years old. I'm heading to the Roxy Club in Covent Garden, the epicentre of this new teenage phenomenon they were calling punk. I bowled down the stairs and into the dingy basement. And there on stage, the band Eater. Average age, 14. And as my eyes grow accustomed to the light, I realise all the kids around me were pretty much my age and wearing gear that wasn't the status quo, or indeed worn by a status quo. After Eater's very exciting, short, frenetic set, me and my new punk mates decided we'd have one last beer in a pub round the corner. But to get there, we have to go past a very dangerous and notorious discotheque called the Sundown, where football hooligans would congregate from various teams on a Saturday night to punch fuck out of each other to the strains of Minnie Riperton. We made it. Brilliant. I barely ordered a pint when the whole pub fell silent. And there in the doorway, a big gang of drunken geezers swaying towards me. Great Millwall fans. I surveyed the scene. To my left, a fellow dressed as an undertaker with green hair. To my right, a bird dressed in bin bags held together with safety pins. And me in the middle, in my Aquamarine suit. I tried to look inconspicuous. Within seconds, bottles, glasses, tables and chairs are flying in all directions. Someone goes to punch me, but I duck. As I duck, I get kicked in my nose and I fall flat on my face. And the jacket of my suit flips over my head and I think, please God, never mind the nose, let nothing go over the suit. But as I peer out from under my jacket, all I can see are feet stumping up and down and glass smashing all over the gaff. It's carnage. Somebody even punches the fucking pianist. The Millwall fans, having upheld the right of every democratic British citizen to punch fuck out of anyone you don't like the look of, had wandered off back to the gentle civility of the Sundown. Yes, it was tough being a teenager in the 70s. I'm not talking about football hooliganism, the 3-day week, power cuts, or even the wombles, no. What made it such a painful decade for me was the fashion. Yeah, cheesecloth, and plenty of it. Tank tops, big hair, and even bigger flares. Pretty much everyone looked like Kevin Keegan.
Yay!
It was also the decade of brotherhood of man and shawaddy-waddy. A 10-year winter of discontent for the dedicated follower of the straight-legged trouser like myself. But amongst this sea of brown tartan, kipper ties, porno moustaches, there were small pockets of resistance, the weird and the wonderful. The psychobillies, rockabillys, teds, punks, mods, skinheads, suedeheads, soul boys, all doing their own thing in their own pubs, but often less than 50 yards apart, which did make leaving your mates and going home alone pretty much like running the gauntlet every night. You could get stabbed for having blue hair by a gang of rockers, as my mate actually did. Hey, that was all 30-odd years ago, and things have changed, haven't they? As I sit in this very same pub, 30 years on, a big gang of greasy rockers coming towards me, the fattest and airiest of whom has got his sausage-like finger right in my face and he's going, "Noi, you that Suggs bloke? Love your work, mate. Don't we, lads? Baggy trousers, fucking brilliant." Well, me and my new rocker mates share a couple of convivial pints.
Yeah, I remember like Castle Donington, 1974.
We get chatting. Our gangs ain't what they used to be. I end up signing a beer mat for his mum, Daphne. I leave the pub feeling pretty chipper. Well, across the road, there's a gang of school kids whispering and pointing at me.
Oi, look, look.
All right, lads. Don't mind giving them a couple of minutes of my time, signing a few autographs. As I go for my pen, as one, they point and shout, "Wanker!" Fucking what? Yeah? What? There's a lot of them, mind. Where's my new rocker mates? Fucking kids today. No respect. Was it like that in my day? Or was it? Naughty boys in nasty schools. Yes, was a lot of naughty boys. Quinton Kynaston in Finchley Road. Kids from all the roughest estates from Kilburn, Maida Vale, North West London and beyond. We used to take the afternoons off. Headmaster hanging out the top floor window shouting, "I can see you, boys!" Didn't matter. Time we got down the stairs, we're over the fence and long gone. We drove our woodwork teacher, Mr. Pringle, so mad, he used to chase us around the classroom with a giant metal ruler, like a maniac in a jungle with a machete. The thing was, his name wasn't even Mr. Pringle. We just called him that to drive him mad. And we did. But oh, what fun we had. I remember one morning, my mate Steve New came into assembly with a nun and a guitar. The nun proceeded to strip off in front of the whole school while Steve played Children of the Revolution. Well, funny enough, I see Steve a couple of years ago and I reminded him of this. He looked blank. He said, "Did I? How on earth did you remember that?" It's fair to say Steve led quite a colourful life. The only time I ever remember seeing anything like a full contingent of kids at my school was for the annual end-of-term fight with St George's down the road. Hundreds just turned up on instinct, God only knows how. Seeing as half of them haven't been there for the other 363 days of the year, they can even remember where it was. Yes, a great natural wonder, like salmon swimming upstream to spawn or birds migrating east. No Facebook, no interweb, none of that. All just turned up spontaneously. There'd be a phalanx of Suzuki 125 mopeds, kids with crash helmets at the front, followed by a delinquent rabble wielding cider bottles. There'd be a volley of bricks and bottles as they clambered the fence at St George's, like a scene from the Game of Thrones. brilliant. But strangely, there was an even posher school next to ours, the American school. But that was another world. Pretty girls, Coca-Cola machines with something in them, kids talking to each other, and bicycles. We never had bikes. Well, you nick one, wouldn't you? Ride it around for half an hour, throw it in the canal. But strangely, there was no tradition of attacking the American school. Might have had something to do with the three burly CIA-looking blokes with the Ray-Bans at their school gates. But legend had it that the enormous smoke glass window above their entrance was bulletproof. Well, someone got half a brick to test the theory. Guess what? It fucking wasn't. Naughty boys in nasty schools, headmasters breaking all the rules, having fun playing fools, smashing up the woodwork tools. All the teachers in the pub passing round a ready rub, trying not to think of when the lunchtime bell will ring again. Oh, what fun we had, but did it really turn out bad? All I learnt at school was how to bend, not break the rules, and oh, what fun we had. But at the time it seemed so bad, trying different ways to make a difference to the headmasters had enough today. All the kids have gone away, gone to fight with next door school. Every turn that is the rule. Sits alone and bends his cane. Same old backsides again. All the small ones tell tall tales, walking home and squashing snails. Oh, what fun we had, but did it really turn out bad? All I learnt at school was how to bend or break the rules, and oh, what fun we had. But at the time it seemed so bad, trying different ways to make a difference. Baggy trousers. Yeah, do you remember them trousers? With the waistband up there like that, son. For some peculiar reason, I had a pair of pockets down by the knees, like that. How many pockets you got? Baggy trousers are. Yes, it was a pretty tough school, Quentin Kynaston. Made a bit tougher for me by the fact I'd arrived halfway through the first term from a small village in Wales. We used to move around a lot when I was a kid. Seems to coincide with when the rent was due. But for a period, we were living in Clerkenwell in Cavendish Mansions. Sounds posh, doesn't it? It wasn't. It was a shoebox. I slept in one room, my mum slept in the living room. We kept the milk on the windowsill because we didn't have a fridge at that time or very much other furniture. My mate in the flats down the road was posh. They had a bath in their kitchen. And when they put the front door on it, it doubled up as a dining room table. Bit drafty, but nice to have a family round, you know. Yes, the flat was so small, I spent most of my life out on the streets. But in the summer holidays, my mum would pack me off for idyllic summer holidays in Wales with my aunt and uncle. And one year, I got to stay there. And I loved it. It was Haverfordwest in southwest Wales. Beautiful. It was all fields that ran on and on. Rivers, swimming in the rivers. Apple scrumping, shooting rats with air rifles, torchlight processions in the woods, all that fucking Van Morrison stuff. You know what I mean? Country fucking business. I went to the local primary school. There's only probably about 40 kids in the whole school. But I did pass my 11 plus. They phased it out in England, but they forgot to tell the Welsh. And I went to the grammar school, and I was doing really well academically. My aunt and uncle were lovely. My 3 cousins were like brothers and sisters to me. But one day, my uncle announced he was going to build us a house, a bungalow from a kit.
And there it is.
Well, I'll never forget going up there with my aunt in the school bus for the grand opening. And it turns out my uncle wasn't quite the builder he thought he was. And unfortunately, during my time there, my aunt and uncle's relationship began to deteriorate, and the bungalow came out in sympathy. A great big crack appeared right down the middle of it. And by the time I was leaving, the whole thing was falling apart. And I was back off to London, to my new school, Quinton Kynaston. Horrific, great big concrete monolith of a place. So there I am, halfway through the first term, with a now slightly Welsh accent. You can imagine the reception I got. My academic successes from Wales went downhill pretty rapidly. And with a matter of months, my whole education was in tatters. And I found this recently. This is a school report from Quinton Kynaston. And this is real, as are these fucking things. Macpherson seems incapable of understanding the simplest of procedures, together with the lazy attitude he exudes. Well, that still confuses me now. Is a lazy attitude something you can exude? Oh, miss, I don't want to sit next to him. He's exuding laziness again. All round me, people falling asleep like that. Lazy attitude he exudes. He is extremely slow. Now, see, you can't say that about kids no more, can you, huh? Hey? He's all right, he's just a bit slow. Huh? What, miss? No, extremely slow. And it goes without saying that every other form of work is beyond him. Well, thanks for that, sir. Wait to show that to my mum. So encouraging, really. The thing was, the report book that I found this in only had 4 in it. I used to tear out all the bad ones. But I did find this, my maths report. Oh, yeah. Works quite well in class. What? Don't remember that. I was useless at maths. Then I remembered. At that point, I'd become so disruptive, the maths teacher said he'd sign me in as long as I promised never to turn up again. And I didn't, because there was so much to be getting on with out in the streets for me and the other 4/3 of the maths class. Keep up at the back of the class, please. Yes, writing on walls up to this point hadn't amounted to much more than scribbling, Mr. Pringle is gay, United is shit, and of course, I like cock. And then writing your mate's name and phone number. Like that. You don't see that so much these days, do you, no? Great big cock with the hairy balls and all that, no? Or a spunk coming out of it, no? Gone out of fashion, has it? I don't know. Well, it used to be everywhere when I was a kid. Your desk, your exercise books, back of your Levi jacket. Oh, for fuck's sakes. But no, this new phenomenon, what had started in the subways of New York, they were calling graffiti, had crossed the Atlantic all the way to North London, and it was starting to appear everywhere. Yeah, kids were writing their nicknames or tags in gigantic, multicoloured, 3-dimensional letters. But I was keen to get started right away. But my name, Graham Macpherson, didn't have the sort of snap I was looking for. The only nicknames I've managed to get from my highly imaginative classmates were Gray and Mac. And flea-bitten Jock Welsh haggis bastard. We're just going to use up far too much spray paint. No, I needed to find my own tag, but how to go about it? Well, at home, my mum had an encyclopedia of jazz musicians, and I was flicking through that one afternoon. All sorts of groovy names in there. Thelonious Monk, The Bird, Slim Fingers Joe. I thought, yeah, hang on, there's got to be something in there. And you know what? I'll just leave it to fate. I'll have one go, and that will be it. And that's exactly what I did. I opened that book at random. I closed my eyes, I held a pin aloft. No more Jock, no more fucking haggis. What nom de plume does destiny have in store for me? I plunged in the pin, and opened my eyes to see it stuck in the middle of the letter E of the word Peter. Peter, Pete, well, that's no fucking good. But then I read on and I read his second name. And forevermore, I would be inextricably linked to an obscure jazz drummer from Kentucky. And henceforth, I would only be known as Suggs. Thank you. And I would broadcast the good news on the private property of the good people of North London. Yes, their garage doors, their garden walls, their public transport. And I was really putting in the hours, oh yes. Getting more and more preposterous every night. Suggs is everywhere. Suggs is our leader. All on my own and that. And who is Suggs? Question mark. Well, a lot of people were starting to wonder that, including a notorious gang from Kentish Town called the Aldenham Glamour Boys. They were 2 or 3 years older than me and had quite a reputation. They were somewhat surprised to see a skinny 15-year-old. What? You think you're our leader? Oh, it's just something to write, wasn't it? Yes, the Aldenham Glamour Boys. They had quite a reputation. They got their name from the youth club they hung around in and the fact they were into glam rock music. T-Rex, Roxy Music, David Bowie. They had feather haircuts, drainpipe jeans, and they sprayed their Dr. Martens a variety of bright colours. It was like seeing a packet of Smarties bouncing down the street. But you wouldn't say that to their faces. Yes, I met some of the Aldenham boys in the cellar of a pub in Hampstead called the Duke of Hamilton, which let underage drinkers like me slip in, but more importantly, had a happy hour for girls. Yes, posh Hampstead girls, robbing along with yobbos from Kentish Town. Pretty posh Hampstead girls with big houses, parents away for the whole weekend, parties. Fridges with food in them. And LPs. Well, I remember one particular party was in full swing when all of a sudden the lights went out. There was pandemonium. And by the time somebody realised the fuse box had been tampered with, we'd disappeared. Had half their record collection. What? It was our version of an illegal download, eh? You just press a button. We had to do it fucking manually. You try carrying 30 LPs in your mate's coat down Hampstead High Street unnoticed. I tell you I didn't do it 'cause I wasn't there. And don't blame me, it just isn't fair. You listen to their side, now listen to mine. Come think of a story, sure you'll find me some time. Now pass the blame and don't blame me. Just close your eyes and count to 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'll be gone and you'll forget the broken window TV set. No, it wasn't me either, I'm just his mate. He told me to stand here and watch the gate. I have a wife and 3 kids, you know. They tell you I'm straight, at least I think so. 'Cause I'm as honest as the day is long. The longer the daylight, the less I do wrong. Now pass the blame and don't blame me. Just close your eyes and count to 3. 1, 2, 3. I'll be gone and I'll forget that what you give is what you get. Thank you. They were a rough lot, the Aldenham boys, but they had some style. Unlike this bunch of school kid twerps that are still following me down the street calling me a fucking wanker. I dive in Reckless Records for some refuge. Oh yeah, this takes me back. Used to be obsessed by music. There's nothing better than spending an afternoon flicking through LPs, trying to find something your mates didn't have. And there was this film out at the time, yeah, American Graffiti. Brilliant. All good-looking, wild-eyed American teenagers at the high school hop, all dancing and singing to original rock and roll, with the music as loud as the dialogue.
American Graffiti. Where were you in '62?
Jerry Lee, Fats Domino, Chuck Berry. Well, it was brilliant, and I was still singing when we all piled out of the pictures.
See you later, alligator. In a wild crocodile. We'll see you later, alligator. In a wild crocodile.
See you in my way now. Don't you know you cracked my style? Well, I've got to tell you, I even surprised myself. These were vocal talents that up to this point had only been utilised in such folk classics as Come On You Blues will never be mastered by no northern bastards. And of course, the timeless classic. You're going home in a fucking ambulance. See you later, alligator, in a wild crocodile. We'll see you later, alligator, after a wild crocodile. And so long, and that's all, goodbye. Hey. Well, I was, as I say, still singing when we all piled out of the pictures. And there, at the bottom of the stairs to the cinema, were three of the Aldenham boys, staring at me, pointing. Oi, do you want to be in our band? Yeah.
Hold on. Hang up. This is Suggs, the bloke I told you about. He's coming down to sing. Suggs, that's Mike. You know Mr. Bosch, didn't you? That's Chris. And that's Lee. Suggs.
I wouldn't advise that as myself.
We were called the North London Invaders. We rehearsed 3 times a week, twice on Saturdays, in a variety of exotic locations. Mike, yes, Mike, the keyboard player's bedroom, with a blanket over the drum kit to muffle the sound, sometimes over the drummer and all to muffle him. Then we got the basement of a dentist surgery in Finchley Road, storming it amongst plaster casts of North London gnashers.
It was the best job I ever had. Until some blokes and their bikes came through. Say, come on down to youth club and see what's new. Well, come on, come on, come on. Let's have some fun tonight.
The only problem now, on Saturday afternoons, I had 2 singing jobs. Come On You Blues. I still had my duties down at the Chelsea shed with all my mates. And I loved the football. It was the highlight of my week. Squashed in with thousands of other kids like me, all singing and chanting and clapping in unison. It had its dangers every now and then. Fans from the opposing team would try and invade the shed and take over. It was mostly just huge surges of pushing and shoving. Well, after one particularly dreary game, of which it has to be said they mostly were in the 1970s, I cheered myself up with a copy of the music paper Melody Maker. And I was flicking through these pictures of these funny old punk bands. And at the back, there was an advertisement that caught my eye. Oh, yeah. Semi-professional North London band seek professionally minded singer. Hang on, that is Mike's phone number.
Oh, hello. Yes. I was just inquiring about the job of singer in your band. Out of interest, what's happened to the old one?
We had to let him go. I had an attitude problem. He's always down to football.
You bastard!
Hang on, is that you, Suggs? Oh, listen, mate. No, listen. We could do with you back in the band, actually. On drums.
What? What's happened to John?
I write all the songs, so I could have a bash singing them.
What?
He's auditioning for singer.
What? You want me to come back in the band and play drums? Go fuck yourself. Stick your shitty band up your arse.
So, there I am, playing drums. In Mike's bedroom, somewhat erratically, with a blanket over me. While a succession of Robert Plant lookalikes are rejected one after the other. Yeah, go on, mate, hop it. What? Do one. Stairway to bollocks, fuck off. Well, to add insult to injury, John got the job of singer and I got sacked as fucking drummer.
I noticed that it's not so important, but timing is almost a fiction.
Well, 3 weeks later, the band are playing the school dance at William Ellis Comprehensive in Camden. There you go, there you go. I'm standing at the back trying to look nonchalant. The band are going down a storm. All the Camden schoolgirls squashed at the front, screaming at the band. It's like a scene from American Graffiti. My commitment to the fellas at the shed starts to wane a smidge. And I'm hit with the blinding realisation I need to be up there, not down here. Back in the record shop, the staff have recognised me and they're playing a few Madness tunes. That's very nice, sir. I've got a few of them at home, thanks. The horrible school kids have got bored and wandered off. I head back out onto the streets of Soho. I pass a coffee bar. There's a young couple laughing, drinking cappuccinos. And I think, that could have been my mum and dad. Maybe this is where they met. He was the nicest man she ever met. And I thought, hang on, Suggs, this is crazy. You've got to find out a bit more about what happened to your dad. It can't be beyond the ken of man to discover what became of your father. And come on, Suggs, you've made historical documentaries. You understand researching the past. Sure, it's probably going to be a lot of really hard work, meticulously putting the bits back together. Days at public records offices, huddled over dusty tomes, charming people on the phone, see if you can put your family tree back together. Probably got to go to Scotland, track down the Macpherson clan. Shit, this is going to be a lot of really hard work, but Suggs, mate, you can do this. So, I looked myself up on that Wikipedia thing. Tell him what it says, Dino.
As a child, Suggs was brought up in Hastings by his mother.
Wasn't brought up there, I was born there. Go on.
His father having left shortly before he was born.
I don't think he did. He left after I was born. Perhaps he left shortly before I was conceived, Dino. That'd be fucking clever. Where are they getting this nonsense?
It's Wikipedia.
What? That Julian Assange wants to get his fucking nose out of my business.
No, Suggs, that's WikiLeaks.
Wiki what fucking ever, yeah? That nosy bastard wants banging up.
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah, good job and all. Anyway, what clown is writing this rubbish?
Interview with Suggs, The Guardian, 1987.
Sakes. I get bored in interviews. But I read on. And what I did read next did amaze me.
William Rutherford Macpherson, father of Graham Macpherson, died in Birmingham in 1975.
And I'm stunned that for all this time it's been out there. This website knows more about my life than me, my mum, my whole family put together. My dad died in 1975. I thought he was gone in 1964 when I was 3. It was 11 years later. I was 14 years old. And Birmingham. What was he doing in Birmingham?
It doesn't say here, but it'll all be on his death certificate.
And I realise there's nothing for it, yeah. Find out where I'm from, who I am. I've just got to do it. I've got to go. To go. To Birmingham. So, there I am, on the train, going to Birmingham. See if I can find out a bit more about what happened to my dad. I love trains. I love train journeys. Countryside flashing past the window. There's no sense of wasting time if all you're doing is daydreaming, because you're on your way. You're going somewhere. You don't need to feel guilty about not doing anything. There's nothing else you can do. Nothing to be getting on with than what you're doing. And what you're doing is going somewhere. The job is to get the body from A to B, and that's happening. One of the great joys of train journeys, doing something while you're doing absolutely nothing. I look around to see everyone else in my compartment frantically tapping away on their laptops.
What an idiot. I never thought to look myself up on that wicked fucking pedia thing before. My dad died in 1975, and it hits me. His life was ending, just as Suggs was taking off.
John, the drummer turned singer, had left the Invaders to go and live in Ireland. And with a couple of gigs imminent, it turns out I'm the only one who knows the words. I'm back in the band.
News agent on the corner, not a very rich, but never really poor. Georgie, old George, a happy 63, not very tall.
We're playing a gig at Heavy Petal, our mate's mum's flower shop in Hampstead High Street. And we're storming it amongst the gladioli. Admittedly, there's more bouquets than fans, but we're going down a storm. When all of a sudden, a big gang of teddy boys burst in at the back of the hall. They listen to a couple of numbers and they're not deeply impressed. They start lobbing everything they can get their hands on. Roses, daffodils, chrysanthemums, buckets of water, huge chunks of Oasis. The green foam, not the band. And once again, I am desperately trying to protect my Acma Marine suit when they get their hands on the bulbs. Fucking amaryllis bulbs. There's one horticulturalist in. For the rest of you, they're just fucking big, all right? Well, all of a sudden, Mike's brother Danny leaps out of the audience and grabs the microphone. Woo! Come on, everybody! Well, I don't know what the fuck's going on, till I notice the teddy boys have all dropped the buckets and are happily jiving at the back of the shop. Whatever the fuck it was they did. The next gigs weren't much better, but amongst the mayhem, we were starting to get recognised. People knew our name. And one day we discovered there was in fact another band called the Invaders. What? After all that, we've got to change our name? When we turned up to the Music Machine in Camden Town to support Sore Throat, whatever happened to them, hey? I think the snivelling shits had cancelled. It turns out Mike has taken it upon himself to rename the band after the form of transport we were using at the time. Yeah, it was Morris and the Miners. It was all over the fucking posters outside. Well, I can tell you, I wasn't mad on being Morris. And the others weren't too keen on being the Miners, neither. It was decided there and then we'd find a new name for the group from one of the songs we were playing at the time. Yeah, My Girl. A bit naff. One Step Beyond. Not bad. Madness.
Madness, madness, they call it madness.
Nah, I never catch on. Okay. Stupid name. And like most young bands, we were mostly playing cover versions. Covers of the music we loved. Motown, 50s R&B, Fats Domino, Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson, and ska and reggae. Music that no one else seemed to be playing at the time. Dukes of the Maytals, Prince Buster, Desmond Decker, but music that really seemed to be getting people going on the dance floor. And we were putting a lot of effort into our image, the way we dressed, the way we walked, the way we smoked a fag, and the way we stood in doorways. You know what I mean? What? And the way we danced. And all that. We knew there were better bands than us around musically, but we felt we were onto something a bit different. When one day our drummer came in with a song he said he'd written himself.
Come on, come on, come on.
I thought, what? If that thick bastard can write a fucking song, I can. And soon we were all at it.
Come on, come on, come on, let's have some fun tonight.
I loved Ian Jury. The way he could turn ordinary life into poetry. Singing in his own accent rather than cod American. Talking almost rather than singing. I could be a driver, articulated lorry. I could be a poet, I wouldn't need to worry. I could be a teacher in a classroom full of scholars. I could be the sergeant in a squadron full of wallers. Naughty boys in nasty schools, headmasters breaking all the rules, having fun, playing fools, smashing up the woodwork tools. Yeah. Yes. We were getting somewhere. We were starting to write some half-decent songs and it was all really coming together on the stage. But proper gigs were still pretty hard to come by. And it was on the verge of desperation we entered the mock Tudor portals of the Dublin Castle in Camden Town.
Hello, I am the governor of the Dublin Castle.
You are?
A traditional Irish pub. What's your act then, lads? Said the genial Irish governor. Country and Western. He looked in our hopeful young faces. Country and Western, you say, eh? There was an excruciating pause before somebody helpfully chipped in at the back. And a bit of folk.
What do you call yourselves?
Madness.
Madness.
Madness. Yeah, madness.
I have a gig now. Come and see me later. All right.
When 7 skinny teenagers started leaping about playing Jamaican ska, the Irish regulars were somewhat bemused. But within seconds, the pints were flowing and the place was jumping. Unbeknownst to us, there was a journalist in that night. We got our first ever review. By the third encore, half the punters were standing on the tables waving their clenched fists, while the other half were reeling round the glass-strewn floor jolly pissed. Well, not much has changed there, eh? I can't say the genial Irish governor was an instant fan, but the amount of beer he sold that night was real music to his ears. And he gave us a regular slot, a residency every Wednesday night, which meant we could start to build something of a following. And the only other pub that would have us and our shower of merry yobbos was the Hope and Anchor in Islington. Great old music pub. They only held about 40 people. But I'd seen all sorts of great bands down there. The Pretenders, Dr. Feelgood, Ian Jury, Dire Straits. Well, only 2 numbers. They were fucking long minds, you know. Fuck's sakes. Sultan of whatever, I really need a piss. You know. But one night we managed to get a gig there ourselves, much to our surprise. And rumour had it that in the audience to see us that night were a band called Deaf School. Well, we loved Deaf School. They were brilliant and theatrical. They'd been a big influence on us. But the band member I almost had my eye on was the delightful Miss Betty Bright.
What a way to end it all.
Yeah, dressed as a different Hollywood starlet every night. Well, I thought the gig went great, and I was particularly pleased with my own performance when after the show, backstage, I was strolling in the direction of the delightful Miss Bright, just in time to overhear her say, I thought the band were great, but the singer's not all that. Well, I may not have had it all, but I had enough of that for her to want to go out with me. I was 18 years old. I was in a band that was getting somewhere. Things were really starting to happen. The Hope and Anchor became our sort of headquarters. We'd hang about there most weekends, seeing whatever bands were coming through town. This unusual gang of characters burst in, all pork pie hats, Frank Sinatra style suits, looked a bit like us. And they were from Coventry. And there were 7 of them. Well, on stage, a fella with really bad teeth shouts, "All right, London, we're the Specials." And within minutes of their opening song, they're leaping about like lunatics. One of them is blowing holes in the ceiling with a starting pistol. They're fucking brilliant. And they're playing ska, and they're from Coventry. I don't know whether to feel jealous or vindicated we might have been onto something after all. Well, after their gig, which was brilliant, I got chatting to the fella with the really bad teeth. And he introduced himself as Jerry Dammers. Well, we got chatting over a few cold beers and we were getting along great. When all of a sudden, he announced his main preoccupation was trying to find somewhere to kip that night. And in those days, the best chance you had of finding somewhere to stay after a gig was pulling a bird. Well, with them teeth, he ended up kipping on my mum's sofa. We sat up late into the night chatting about this and that. I found a cassette we'd made in Mike's bedroom and I tried to play it on my mum's music centre. It was barely audible. Jerry didn't seem deeply impressed. But he suddenly announced he was going to start his own record label. I said, "Really, Jerry? Isn't that a smidge optimistic? Seeing you just played to 35 people in a pub basement?" "I'm serious," he says, reaching for a professional-looking briefcase. "Do you want to sign to my label?" Well, it fell open to reveal a copy of Melody Maker and a mouldy orange. Well, how's am I going to do that, Jerry, if you haven't even got a fucking pen? The sharp whistle of the platform guard awoke me from my reverie at Birmingham New Street Station. In the registry office, a very nice man called Mr. Yates slides my father's death certificate across the desk. And it's a shock, a real shock, just holding it in my hands. For this man who up to this point had just been a figment of my imagination. Date and place of death, 25th of January, 1975, Bagshot Road, Birmingham. Cause of death, carcinoma of the kidney. So he didn't die of a drug overdose. Profession, photographer. So he got a job, a good job. Name and surname of informant, Mary McPherson, widow of the deceased. So he got out at the asylum and he remarried. Became a photographer. Must have turned his life around. He must have got clean. I should go to Bagshot Road, see where he lived with his second wife and where he died. A photographer, an artist. He was into jazz. He got his life back together. What a shame we never did get a chance to meet. I'm sure he would have been very proud of my success. Success that came in the form of a phone call from Jerry Dammers. "All right, Suggsy, I've done it. I've started my own label. It's called Two Tone." What, after your teeth, Jerry? Don't be stupid. I'm serious, we got proper backing. Do you want to make a record?
Buster, he sold the heat with a rock steady beat. An earthquake is erupting, but not in Orange Street. A ghost dance is preparing. You got to help us with your feet.
And I shall never forget holding that piece of vinyl with our name on it for the first time. At Archway Roundabout, with traffic cones on our heads. And a shopping trolley. No great British celebration to them without a traffic cone on your head. Or hearing it on the radio for the first time. I was going past some roadworks and I nearly fell in the fucking hole, trying to hear it. But the next thing, we were to appear on Top of the Pops, eh? Oh, eh? Audience of a certain age.
An earthquake is erupting, but not in Orange Street. A ghost dance is preparing. You got to help us with your feet.
So we get in a bit of trouble for messing around and not miming properly.
Orange Street.
We are to embark on the two-tone tour. Yeah, we're to meet at the Roundhouse at Chalk Farm. There's us, the Specials, Selector, and later Dexy's Midnight Runners. 28 deranged musicians all squashed onto this tiny school bus. I was one of the last ones to get there. It was all arms, legs, trumpets, trombones, spliff-puffing faces sticking out of all the small slidey windows. A couple of revs of the clapped-out old diesel engine, and we're heading up Chalk Farm Hill to the north. We got no further than the Watford Gap. A small riot broke out at the service station. The police were called, and 3 of the band were arrested. We barely got out of fucking London. It set the tone for the two-tone tour. But they were the most fantastic times of my life. And what I remember most clearly was the energy of them gigs. We'd often be playing old dance halls with sprung floors. More ballroom bouncing than ballroom dancing. But the whole venue would be jumping up and down. The balcony within a whisker of collapse. Light bulbs dangling from the lighting rig as it careered to and fro. And me, on the prow of a ship sailing the high seas of teenage delirium. As I desperately clutched the bucking speaker stack, as the sweat condensed on the ceiling and rained down on us. Really incredible nights. Normally culminating in most of the bands and indeed often half the audience on stage to sing the finale.
Well, madness, they call it madness. Madness, they call it madness. It's plain to see, that is what they mean to me. Madness, I call it gladness.
Thank you. The things were only going to get wilder when we made our next record for the legendary independent record label Stiff Records. Fantastic place, full of all sorts of mavericks and eccentrics and great musicians. The Damned, the Pogues, Kirsty MacColl, Nick Lowe, Reckless Eric, and our hero, Ian Dury. It's the perfect place for us. Dave Robinson, the boss, an inspired if somewhat mad chap, had been keen on signing the band, but hadn't got a chance to get to any of our gigs. So he booked us to play at his wedding. Not sure how pleased his missus was about that. What, you really don't know any hot chocolate numbers? But he became obsessed about a short piece of music we played that night. A bit of old nonsense, really. A 30-second instrumental just to get ourselves on stage. But he was sure it should be the first single from our debut album. But we'd finished recording the album and we'd run out of studio time. And anyway, there just wasn't enough in it to make a 3-minute single. But while we were down the pub, Dave snuck in the studio and doubled it in length by literally recording it onto another piece of tape, joining them 2 bits of tape together and sticking them through a thing called a harmonizer to smudge away the join. Well, hey, there you go. Genius! And one step beyond did, of course, go on to become the debut single from our iconic first album. And all that. Thank you. Well, one afternoon, Mike was messing about on the piano with an old Labby Sifri number. Lovely. Dave said, "Here, hang on, that's great. You've got to record that." It was nice, but we just thought, it's just a bit too sentimental for us. I mean, nothing more, nothing less. Love is the best. Who the fuck's gonna go for that? Dave said, no, you've got to record that. If that don't get in the top 5, I will give you Stiff Records. Well, It Must Be Love got to #2 in the charts, and we never did get to own Stiff Records. See, in the long run was all for the best. People often ask me, did you have the sort of fun it looked like you were having? And we most assuredly did. Making them videos. Any excuse to dress up and mess about. Seven extroverts all fighting for the limelight. The costumes got more bizarre and extreme to the point that one day Lee, our sax player, turned up as an exploding traffic warden. There was this costumiers in Camden called Berman and Nathan's. He did all the really serious stuff. All the big movies, all the big West End productions, had the real gear. For some reason, they took a shine to us and let us pretty much take anything we liked. Well, one day, we got our hands on these authentic coppers' uniforms. Well, can you even begin to imagine the fun we had out on the streets in them? What? Hey! Hello, hello, hello. What's fucking going on here then? Especially when we discovered the Clash were rehearsing round the corner. Hey. Right, nobody move. It's the fucking Pigs. Just the sound of doors slamming and toilets flushing. They never spoke to us for 5 years. But in 1981, things were getting even better. It Must Be Love was flying up the charts, and Betty Bright said, I do to me. And it was a beautiful white wedding in every sense of the word. We had 2 foot of snow the night before. But it was a beautiful day, and everybody was there. Everybody. My mum, my aunt and my cousins from Wales, the band and all my friends. Everybody except my dad. So, there I am, in a small suburban street in Birmingham, looking at the house where my dad lived with his second wife and where he died. And maybe she's still there.
Or maybe they had kids. Maybe the stepbrothers, sisters, a whole McPherson clan I've yet to meet. There it is. Sod it. I'm gonna knock on the door. Mrs. McPherson?
Who, dear? There's no one here of that name.
Oh. They didn't leave a forwarding address or anything, did they?
No, sorry. I've never heard of her, and we've lived here 30 years. Sorry.
And I don't know whether to feel relieved or disappointed. But maybe there is more at the registry office. Something on his wedding certificate from when he got remarried.
My honeymoon consisted of 2 idyllic nights at the Ritz Hotel before I had to rush off on tour again. It was 1983, barely 4 years into the band's chart-topping success, and cracks were already starting to appear. I should have seen the signs that Mike was getting a bit fed up with show business when he turned up to a photo session wearing a balaclava. The wrong way round. And in 1984, he stopped turning up altogether. And the magic began to evaporate. The band had been formed in Mike's bedroom. And since those early days as the Invaders...
Do you remember it, Carl?
Naive and chaotic days, We'd been on the most incredible adventure together and become arguably the biggest band of the 80s. But we were getting tired, really tired. Most of us were newly married with young kids, and the constant touring meant we were very rarely at home. The whole thing was starting to fall apart. Until one day, I remember I was in the studio. There was just 4 of us with headphones on, tapping away on drum machines. I thought, hang on, what's happened to the band? And I said, shall we pack it in? And nobody said no. I remember leaving the studio, shell-shocked, walking down the Caledonian Road. I was 27 years old, and it felt like my career was already over. Madness had been my life. Who was I without them? I didn't even feel like a proper singer. Some people still don't. And I certainly wasn't about to start auditioning for indie rock bands. But after a few months at home, practicing the piano and me putting in the living room, I really was starting to wonder what I was going to do next. When out of the blue, I got a call asking if I'd like to host a television programme. Yes, would I like to host a Saturday night show that's going to be down with it and all to go for the sexy new Channel 5. Yes, it's going to be cutting-edge Saturday night spectacular with a galaxy of musical superstars and a top-secret killer format. Basically, karaoke.
Here's Suggs.
And the galaxy of musical superstars,
including Emotion, Steve Harley, and The Real Thing. Don't you start.
No, so I put that behind me.
No, Suggs Radio. That's it. That's more your thing, radio. I've always loved radio, yes. I managed to get a job as a DJ on Virgin Radio.
I'll never forget my lovely little daughter Viva saying to me, Dad, you, a DJ? What the fuck do you know about music? I was to broadcast 5 shows a week, but I'd wangled it so that I could pre-record 3 of them. Well, one day, I was off to the station to meet my cousin from Wales for a stag do, and I was late. I jumped in the back of a cab.
I love your show, Suggsy, mate. I listen to it every day. But you're cutting it a bit fine now. You're on in 5 minutes. But don't worry, I'll get you there.
Before I got a chance to say anything, he's hurtling off in completely the wrong direction. Now I haven't got the heart to tell him it's pre-recorded. He's driving like a maniac.
To a halt in Golden Square, and he goes,
Run! Don't worry about the money, mate. Go on, run! Get out!
So, I run. And I hide behind the reception till he's gone round the corner and try and work out how the fuck I'm going to get to Paddington in 5 minutes. But then the perfect job came in. Oh, yeah. My agent phoned me to ask would I like to star in a romantic film set during the Blitz alongside Sienna Miller and Keira Knightley. Yes. He said, hang on a minute, I'll send you the script first, Suggsy, read that and then let me know. I said, no, I'll read the script, but yes. What? I was to play Al Bowley, the legendary wartime crooner. I was going to get to act and sing with the delightful Miss Miller and Miss Knightley. Here, hang on. Maybe there's a scene where the delightful Sienna Miller falls for the irresistible charms of the well-dressed lounge singer. Here, hang on. What? Maybe they both do. Yeah, picture this. The focus softens as the three of us sashay towards the boudoir. Yes, well, you can imagine the enthusiasm with which I looked through the script when it arrived. For my effing part. Hang on, no. Al Bowley steps on stage at the Café de Paris and sings. Hang out the stars in. And a bomb falls through the roof and kills everyone. There I am. back in the registry office thinking how lucky I have been, Mr. Yates has found my father's wedding certificate.
Hang on. There's his second wife's maiden name. I'm going to track her down.
I'm sorry. I think I might have beaten you to it.
And it's her death certificate. And she died of a drug overdose. Just a year after he died. So there are no brothers, sisters, no McPherson clan. But on her death certificate, it says, widow of William McPherson of no occupation. So what, he wasn't even a photographer? On his death certificate, it says he was.
When he died, she may have just written down the job he always dreamed of doing.
And it all falls apart. All those hopes that he became successful, got clean, got a job, fulfilled his dreams. It's just a sorry tale of two poor junkies whose lives got entangled and they went down together.
I head back to the station. It's 1992, 8 years since the band last played together. There's a growing feeling we never said a proper goodbye to our fans. It is decided we should play a one-off farewell concert. Played a few since, mind, yeah. Got a few coming up around Christmas if you're stuck for St. Yes, the only question was, would anybody turn up? Well, on the 8th and 9th of August, 75,000 people did turn up to Madstock in Finsbury Park. And it went berserk. There was people as far as the eye could see, and indeed further, all jumping up and down and dancing in unison. The whole of Finsbury Park felt like one of them sprung dance floors of the Two-Tone Tour. It was beyond words. Now, this bit is true. Even truer than all the true bits what I've already told you. On the 8th of August, the police phoned the British Geological Survey saying people had reported an earthquake in North London.
On the 8th of August 1992, the police phoned the British Geological Survey and they said that people had been phoning in saying that there had been an earthquake in London. People were frightened. Tower blocks were being evacuated because people thought that the tower block was going to fall down.
It registered an earth tremor of 5 on the Richter scale. Now, I know some of my fans have put on a bit, but hey. Seismologist Alice Walker told the BBC, when I told the police I thought the cause of the earthquake was a Madness concert in Finsbury Park, they were sceptical. I bet that's not the word they used.
They didn't believe me at first. And I got a phone call the next night from the police who said exactly the same felt effects had occurred. And so they did believe me after all. So my reputation as a seismologist still remains intact.
An earthquake had indeed erupted. Well, hey! Thank you. Thank you very much. Our compilation album, Divine Madness, was #1 in the charts, and Mike was back, minus the balaclava, and we were a band again. Mike Farzo Barson, Mark Bedders Bedford, Chrissy Boyd Foreman, Chaz Smash, Lee Kicks Thompson, Dan Woody Woodgate, and me. And we were off to the Rock on Seine in Paris. It was the usual old mayhem, our compartment completely packed with wives, husbands, uncles, aunts, kids, mates of kids' mates, people I've never met in my fucking life before. I remember thinking we never seem to get this much interest when we play in Hull. One of our daughter's boyfriends, probably mine, being frog-marched out the first-class compartment. Our trombone player, nicking miniature bottles of Chardonnay from the drinks trolley. Even though they're complimentary. When we get to the garden, there is a cascade of bodies, bottles and bags all over the platform. It's very obvious to everyone we have had a good time. As I look down the train, I see Noel Gallagher getting out the first-class compartment. On his own. newspaper under his arm, an oasis of calm. And just for half a second, as I survey the scene round my feet, I wish I was in. But when we get to the gig, we are told by the French promoter that Oasis don't want us on the main stage before them. We've been relegated to a smaller stage. We don't know if it's them, their management, or what. They just don't want it. And we're pissed off. We've never blown a gig out before. We aren't about to start now. It just meant we had to play in a field half the size. And all the people who wanted to see us on the main stage had to squeeze in. And it went berserk. There's people hanging out the trees, bouncing up and down on the roofs of the beer tents, all huddled together on the roofs of the hot dog vans. It's brilliant. Well, after the gig, we're relaxing backstage in our smoking jackets, when from the dressing room next door, we hear a terrible clang. Sounds like the first chord of a hard day's night. Turns out Liam has smashed Noel's guitar and they've had a terrible fight. When all of a sudden, the French promoter bursts in at the back of the dressing room. Sacre bleu! What am I to do? Say I've gone home. He was from the Alsace, right up near the German fucking border. Say I've gone home. Oasis, I've gone home. They're not playing the gig. They're not playing any gigs. They fucking split up. It's getting more and more Tommy Cooper that every night. I'll retreat for Richie. Right. What? Hey, I've only just come on. Bogarts! Bogarts! Hey! Oh, yeah, that was it, yeah. Oasis had gone home, that's it. The old lady in the pub. The promoter's on his knees. Anyone need to go to the toilet? Promoter's on his knees, that's right. Madness have had a nice few, that's it. Please, Madness, would you go on the main stage instead of Oasis? Well, our hardened road crew aren't too sure. Hang on, Suggs, they said. They're going berserk out there. They're throwing everything they get their hands on at the stage. You'll get lynched. OK, chaps, let's do it. So I threw on a pink suit and we headed for the stage. Right, chaps. Let's not mention Oasis, yeah? Let's have some dignity. Some respect. All right, Paris. Let's fucking have it. And during the opening chords to One Step Beyond, I look down and between my feet is a small piece of white tape, and on it is written the word Liam. The gig's one of the best we've ever done. And I'm thinking back to that magnificent moment when I get off the train at Euston. I'm thinking back to seeing Noel Gallagher step out of his first-class compartment on his own. What seemed like serenity now feels a little bit like loneliness. And I realise I'd rather be surrounded by my noisy, frustrating gang of fools than be stood there alone. But from the early days, Madness have been something of a surrogate family. With all the frustration, the annoyance, the fucking aggravation. Fucked up, ridiculous, chaotic, impossible, unbeatable lot. Thank you. Thank you. And I think it doesn't matter about my dad. We got this far without him, and it will be fine. Sure, it is a shame. But it doesn't change anything. But he was a nice man, and that is good to know. But I am who I am, regardless of him. Cab pulls up, and the driver leans out the window and goes to me, "Here."
All right, Suggs, you heading home?
And I realise I am home, and I'm surrounded by love. And I realise it's time to let go of the past. I'm 50-odd years old. My kids have left home, and my cat died. My parents put the funk into this fucking functional. But apart from the cat, I wouldn't change a fucking thing. What's really important are the people around you now, the people around you right now. I never thought I'd miss you, well, half as much as I do, you know. Well, and I never thought I'd feel this way, the way I feel about you. Ooh. Soon as I wake up, every night, every day, I know that it's you I need to take the blues away. It must be love, love, love. It must be love, love, love. Nothing more, nothing less. Love is the best. I mean, who the fuck's gonna go for this? Well, how can it be that we can say so much without words? Well, bless you and bless me, and bless the bees and the birds. Let's not forget the birds. I got to be near you every night, every day. I couldn't be happy, no, any other way. Why? Oh yeah, it must be love, love, love. 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 'Cause it's nothing more, it's nothing less. Love is the best in my humble estimation. Thank you very much. Thank you.